Hey guys, this is Paul of Enclosures here, and sorry if my voice sounds a little bit raspy. I'm having a lot of allergy problems today. But anywho, today's video is going to be a menagerie tour. It's my first one in, my second one, in 3.5 months. So, I just wanted to show the progression of everything I've done up until now. Anyone who's watched the other one will probably see some differences, but I'll point them out as I go. Anyway, I guess I could just start with the desk here. Not really much to see besides this gigantic vase that I'm going to be working with soon for an order from my friend Michelle, and tea, which I never remember to drink. Bookshelf, I guess there's not really much there. There's my food processor that I use to mulch up the worm food that I used for my worm composter there. Fed them 2 days ago. I'm probably going to feed them soon. They just live on leftover table scraps, but I always make sure I mix in some leaves, coffee grounds, eggshells, and a banana to hold consistency. That's just a little compost pile, though. Spoon there, it's not compost. When it breaks down a little bit more, I'll plant it in my garden out in the back, or my soon to be garden. Sorry, there's a glare, but yeah, I can't really fix that too well. But here are some of my various items that are for sale. This is a small vase aquarium that I was making for my orchids, and they're all facing a north-facing window, so they have just the right amount of sunlight. The only issue with this one, the reason that the orchid's not in it, is because the orchid had a lot of leftover bark on its roots, which started to rot when I put it in. So I learned through that if I'm going to be doing any sort of water culture orchids, go with orchids that have been kept in sphagnum moss up until that point. But so far the ecosystem is still thriving. Nothing wrong with it. And then I have this particular closed terrarium. There's a lot of condensation on it right now. But so far, this is one of my favorite ones that I've made up until this point. This one is on sale currently for $50, and I've made pictures of it before on Instagram and Facebook, so if anyone's interested in that one, please get in contact with me, although I'd be almost reluctant to sell it because I'd like to watch it myself. This one here is was actually made by my friend Chris, and is his first foray into leveling, and it turned out really nice in my opinion. That one's going currently for $20. And then I have some various small ones which are part of an order that I'm going to complete for someone else. And this was another aquarium vase that I made. You can see the snail back there. Red ram's horn. Just keeping the tank clean. I made this one with philodendron and a dracania. Both of them had the same colors, so I figured that'd make a real nice combo. Here's my transportation box. I don't know what Chewy is, but it's something that my sister has. Then we have a box full of 32-ounce deli containers along with some wire, mesh. Then I just have some other supplies, some pots that my mom gave me, some organic soil that I mixed with my own vermicompost, and lumpwood, hardwood, charcoal. It's I use it for filtration inside terrariums. Moving on. I guess I can hit up my desk first. What we have here is an experiment of mine on the right side, and that inside the tank is just some plants and my Cuban tree frog Herbie, which he doesn't come out during the day, or she, I'm pretty sure it's a she. And then I have the duo spider paludarium with Finca, creeping fig, and bromeliads growing out of the sides. On the bottom there are snails right now cleaning, so it's not doesn't have anything in it. And the tarantula you can see right there. It usually lives within the log. It comes out a little bit more at night, but that's usually where it hangs out. I'm just waiting for it to make a nest. What we have here are my other water cultured orchids. They all seem to be doing really well. So far I've had them like this for about 2-3 weeks. They've shown absolutely no signs of degeneration at the roots, and these are all orchids that were grown in sphagnum moss up until this point. It's pretty easy just to rub off the sphagnum moss, but you can see that the orchids are starting to grow new leaves right there, and then that really bright green leaf is a new leaf also. I never thought that orchids would have been able to be grown like this, but it's really cool to find out that they can. I'll be able to make more interesting aquarium vases with orchids. Here is a Selaginella spike moss. You can see a cutting there. It's starting to spring roots, although I should really flip that one over. I was thinking about taking one of these out and trying to propagate it in a properly sized terrarium so I can use it in more interesting ways. Although I could just as easily go to Dearborn and get a new one. And I just have some other plants that I'm saving for projects. It's a red star bromeliad there. Very fond of it. And then a couple of ferns. And petunias, begonias. And more creeping fig. Here I have my drip log going. I just put fresh moss on it because I just didn't see a lot of growth in a while, so hopefully I'll have an update soon, and if this works I'd like to be able to start marketing this one. It also has a finding English ivy on the top of it, which is a water plant, so it can be submerged partially. So the amount of water that's trickling down that log is not really going to rot out the roots or anything. And here I have a little snail critter catcher. Mostly small garden snails, but there's a very large one somewhere right now. It's not that one right there. That's actually just an empty shell I found. There it is. Pretty big. Doesn't really have a name though. And then I have just a holder here holding my moss balls until I can find a purpose for them. I'm thinking about putting some of them in the duo spider paludarium. And then here's the back of my 40-gallon breeder scorpion tank. I stuck all the leaves in the back so that the isopods will have something to eat, but the leaves won't cover up the moss and end up killing them. There's no plants or anything underneath this part. There's a rabbit tree fern that I put in recently. Roots seem to be doing well. and a whole bunch of moss. Let's start with the bromeliad first. It's an older bromeliad, but you can see it's starting to bud off and has pups. One big one there. But as you can see, there's a ton of moss inside this tank. Sorry for the glare. The scorpion's in the back, but it doesn't come out usually at all, even much at night. It's kind of a shut-in. But there's only one scorpion in here right now, and it's the male, the one remaining male. The female died under unknown circumstances, but another one of my females had scorpionlings, and once they grow bigger, I'll introduce them to this tank. As you can see, tons of moss everywhere. There we have pothos plants, just growing rampantly like pothos does. It's starting to send out shoots that are just rooting in everywhere, and they're just moving along. Might have to trim it at some point. And there's this small ground cover binding plant that I found in the forest. Added that too, just because I liked how it looked. And an acorn there. I don't know, just aesthetically I liked it. Moving on. Up here, I have all my, whoa, almost knocked this over. That's a pineapple bromeliad. It's doing pretty well so far. The old growths are kind of dying off and leaving the new ones. Here is my moss. Slowly starting to dwindle away from all the projects I've been working on. I'll get new ones soon before it gets too cold outside, and then everything's covered with either dead or covered with snow. And then the last one is some sphagnum moss. Growing really well. Turned out to be one of my favorite mosses so far. Here's my avicularia tarantula that's in the duospider paludarium's old cage. I just left it there. Still has some plant growth there, pretty nice. But mostly just on the side where there's a lot of light. The moss on this side isn't doing super well. Then I have a 50-gallon tank that my friend Anna gave me, and I've just been using it to hold plants up until now. Got Tricania there, Calathea, that's the green one with the darker green spots and the purple undersides. One of my favorite looking plants. And then we have prayer plant there, Mandala leucomelis, crotons, more Dracania, this begonia that I rescued from Walmart. Looked terrible until I picked it up and put it under better conditions. Then there's an orchid back there that I'm trying to figure out what to do. Crotons. And then I have a Phytonia there. Another Dracania back there, but a palm, Neanthbella palm, also known as a parlor plant there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that either. It's starting to get pretty big. This container I have just a couple of organic pieces of bark, in the sense of they have lichen on them, which I break down and use for projects. And I have all my bromeliad pups, some doing better than others. And just this cool piece of bark I found. It kind of looked like a tiara to me, so I picked it up. I have this lemon butter fern that I rescued from Walmart, and it was the only one that still looked halfway decent, and it did a little bit better so far. And one of my bromeliads with tillandsia, kind of just hanging out there. That's not part of the actual plant, it's just there. And then wilted lady slipper there. I think its growth cycle was done for this year, so it's done growing. But the root system still looks pretty good from what I've been able to see. Then there's pothos plant that I rejuvenated for my friend Chris. And then another bromeliad up there. Moving on, I have my 10-gallon scorpion, Asian forest scorpion tank. They're all underground right now, so you really can't see too much. But yeah, they're doing pretty well. The last time I got a count, it was 14 babies. They're really going to need to be moved out of there soon. I'm just worried about putting them in the 40-gallon tank with the adult male. I might have to remove him and put him in there, and then put all of the scorpions, including the mother that's in there, into the 40-gallon tank. So I'll just switch them out. And then this is my Vietnamese centipede tank. Sorry about the lights, by the way, and the glare. If anyone remembers, his name is Alucard. He really doesn't come out that much, so it's kind of hard to get a good shot of him, besides the one YouTube video that I put out. I saw it moving around yesterday, and it ate a full-sized Madagascar hissing cockroach, so it's still doing pretty well. Here I have a adult Brachypelma vagans tarantula, and a whole mess of isopod, along with all those plants. Got ground ivy there, which I like quite a bit, and then pothos in the corner. I tried doing moss for a while, but the moss didn't pick up for whatever reason. Here is my breeding tank for Narcissus americanus, giant American centipede, millipedes. Those are babies right there. I could see the adults. You can see them back there. They're just eating dead plant material right now. You can see the leftover veins of the plants that they've already eaten. And in terms of plants here, I had a plantain plant, but it died for this season and it degraded. Then they ate it. And then I also have ground ivy, which is still doing really well. In terms of soil composition, this is probably the healthiest tank I have. By the way, if anyone's interested in these little guys, these Narcissus americanus millipedes, please get in contact with them. They're growing fast and they're going to outgrow this tank soon enough, so I'm going to need to start moving them along. There's also some flat millipedes in here, 2 different species. I might send a couple of them extra, just in case anyone wants them, if they buy the Narcissus americanus. And here I have my Madagascar hissing roaches. Sorry about the dirty glass, they don't give me a lot of opportunities to clean. Whenever I open up the tank, they make a run for it. They're exceptional climbers, and they get absolutely huge, as you can see from the ones in the back. And they hiss, which is neat. Their scientific name is Gromfadoria portentosa, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And also they are for sale for $4 each. If anyone's interested in them, please message me, because they're not going to breed past a certain point if I don't start getting rid of some of them. And if you prefer male or female, just let me know and I will pick out the correct gender for you. Here is my Valentine vivarium tank. It's kind of dirty. I haven't had a chance to clean it yet. But so far the plants inside have been doing really well. And it's kind of hard to focus, not only because of the the dirt on the glass from the worms, but it's also just that there's a lot of condensation in there. And this tank still holds my colony of Valentine's ants, species Chromatogaster. And there's a Bromelia and Phytonias in there, this large temperate plant. Still doing really well, and the moss is starting to grow over the log a little bit more. But until I cut back that temperate plant, the other plants are not going to really have a chance to grow, so I'm going to be doing that very soon. Here's my drawer that I hold all my glassware in. This one here I plan on using for an aquarium. And these two here are going to be for aquarium vases. This one here is going to be for a terrarium. This one is going to be made into a terrarium, but it could very easily be made into a closed aquarium also. And also a Christmas tree ornament, which I'm going to be attempting to put a little closed terrarium in. And then also small vials that I'm going to be using to fill out a couple of orders I got soon. Large jug, which I'll probably use for a closed terrarium, along with that one in the back corner. As you can see, I got quite a few different types of jars. One of the stores nearby me has a sale going on for 50% off, so I've just been buying up everything that I can, and I'm going to go back tomorrow for more. This container here is has vermicompost in it that I already mixed with organic potting soil. And then also a formicarium that I've had since last year with Camponotus Chromadios ants. Oh, you can see the queen. It's unusual. She doesn't usually come out of her one burrow, or one chamber. I haven't been doing that well this year. I think I might have taken them out of hibernation too soon, but I'm starting to see her reproduce now. So I'm just going to let her go as long as she needs, and then as she'll work. And then I'm going to give her 6 months this time, as opposed to the 4 months that I gave her of hibernation. Next is a colony of Lasius niger ants. I need to clean up this test tube a little bit and give them a little bit of something to eat. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. And I sold all the rest of my ants through the GAN project that Mikey Busto set up. Let me just say, there is good money to be made in ants. And I have my original Josh's Frogs springtail colony, along with a couple of cultures I set up myself. And that's what I used to feed them here, brewer's yeast. I also used a brewer's yeast to make fruit fly cultures. I also have 2 cultures of calico isopods. They're good for tanks where you don't want all your isopods being eaten by dart frogs, as they're just way too big. I need to feed them after I'm done with this video. And then I also have a colony of smaller isopoda, purple dwarf isopods. And they're excellent cleanup crew, and they're also big enough to be eaten by poison dart frogs. Down there I have a it's pretty much turned into a springtail culture until the harvestman eggs hatch, but they should be getting a couple of harvestmen soon. I'm not sure if they need a hibernation period or not. That was the only thing. Moving on, I have a shrimp tank here most of the shrimp have either passed away from old age, and I only have a few left. It's one of them though. I just fed them, so they were hungry. That's one of my oldest shrimp there, and she's still doing okay. Mostly I'm using this tank to breed snails. I know that that may sound crazy to a lot of aquariumists, but I use them in my aquarium vases, so they do have practical use. My red ram's horns in there, along with a ton of java moths, some duckweed on the top, and anubias in the back. And Malaysian trumpet snails along with the ram's horn. Moving down, I have this aquarium. This one is basically the same, except instead of anubias I have a Amazonian sword plant and frog bit on the top. For whatever reason my other tank doesn't grow frog bit. I'm assuming that it's some sort of metal in the water, which is why I stuck duckweed up there. And hopefully it cleans up the water a little bit, and then I can try putting the frog bit in. But as you can see, the frog bit is just it's everywhere. And the roots are so strong that they went down into the substrate and gripped around all the gravel, and if I try to pull them out, the gravel would go with it. You can see one of the wild colored neocardinia shrimp right there. You know, it's kind of hard to see. It's munching on some algae wafer. There's also 2 amanos in here, an autosynclius catfish, and some assassin snails. Oh wait, there's the amano. It's eating some algae wafer right there. I'm going to be moving these assassin snails out soon. And then I'm going to be putting in some blue ram's horn. I'll be using this tank to breed them. That way I can have some diversity with my aquarium vases rather than just using the red ones all the time. Here I just have a test 5.5 gallon tank. And it has one pregnant mosquito fish in there. I'm also using it to start growing out cuttings of older plants, well, cuttings from older plants. I'm using this piece of egg crate to kind of anchor them to the top. I kind of went over all of this in my aquaponic tank, but I figured I'd just pre-show it. There's also 2 there's one. There's also 2 crayfish in this tank. Although the glare is kind of getting in the way again. According to my friend Thomas, it's a marbled crayfish, which I'm really not that happy about. Marbled crayfish have the ability to clone themselves. They can reproduce without mating. And even if that wasn't the case, there were also 2 crayfish in here. Moving downwards, it's a new aquaponic tank that I set up, and I went into all the details on this one before. We got Dracania there, English ivy, philodendrons in the back, spathiphyllum, an old spathiphyllum for my red shrimp tank, broke off into 2 more growths. Then there's Heterohelix, little Herman ivy back there, and then there's a basil plant that Riley gave it to me. And then that's about it in terms of plants on this side. In this aquaponic tank I have pothos, normal pothos, variegated pothos. I think I moved all the philodendron out unless I missed one. And wandering Jew here, which is still my favorite vining plant. And a whole mess of fish here. The 2 orange ones are goldfish that I bought from Petco, and the only ones that have survived. I started to get sick of Petco and their terrible quality of fish and how they're treated. So I went out and I caught mosquito fish, and not a single one of them has died. super hardy, and they can last in a wide variety of conditions. Although they still have really good conditions, they're just super hardy. They may not be big aquaponic fish, but it's the quantity thing as opposed to the quality. And they're all doing really well. And then there's just my various equipment in the bottom shelf in my barrel. And there's in terms of equipment, there's also the pots in the bottom, and then there's the tools that I use on a regular basis whenever I'm making anything. And on the bottom of the 40-gallon scorpion tank, there's also the other materials that I actually use inside my terrariums. This one is just coconut coir that I haven't done anything with. This is refined substrate, just waiting to be moistured. My head is all fuzzy today from being, I don't think I'm sick, I really just think this is allergies. And then there's some clay that I can use occasionally on the bottom layer, on top of the charcoal layer. This was pea gravel. I got a new bag of it, but I just need to refine it a bit. The bottom there is bark, fir bark, and the bottom here is a granulated gravel. The box over here is leaves, and leaves have tons of uses, from vermicompost to just putting in tanks and allowing your cleanup crew to eat. A couple of rocks and sticks that I use in my closed terrariums and larger ones. And also have some more supplies that I use in terrarium making. Lots and lots of supplies. Yeah, sick of this. A lot goes into this sort of thing. And last but not least, if we're talking about the menagerie, well, there's also one other thing about this, but there's of course the violet arrow paludarium, which I keep my 2 poison dart frogs in, and anaphylaxis. They're still doing really well. Right now they're just actively looking for food. Tank came along pretty well. I put duckweed inside the water, used to clear up the water a little bit. And yeah, they're really hungry, as you can see right now. I've pruned back the plants once, but I'm going to have to do it again. As you can see in the background, or maybe you're not able to because of all the fog, the wandering Jew back there is just covering up the moss ramp. Yeah, once I'm done here, I'm going to try and find some more food for them. Oh, look at them go. And the last thing in the house that belongs to me is just this little covel over here. These succulents here are for a project for my sister. And then this mini aquarium here, it doesn't really have anything in it besides a couple of snails, but it's doing really well for itself. 0 nitrate, 0 ammonia. I check it every now and then just to make sure. And there's some duckweed on the top. It's pretty much run out of nutrients though, so the plants really don't grow that much more, which is good. Then there's also this little bottle garden, which is technically my first mini bottle garden. It seems to be doing really well for itself still. Just has a little plant in it. I'm not sure what type of plant, but it never grows any bigger than that, and moss. which you can see in the bottom underneath it. Then I also have 2 aquarium vases. From what I can tell, the snails are still doing really well inside, grown up a little bit. The roots are starting to expand. Old leaves die every now and then, but it's not a big deal. The ones that are left to look really, really healthy. Same goes for this one. Really no difference besides the shape of the pot. They're the ones that I featured in the videos. And then there's also the beta vase. I have duckweed on top so I can convert more ammonia into nitrates and keep the fish happy. And just recently I did some maintenance on the vase, got rid of some dead decaying plant matter. So far looks pretty good. And lastly, I have this larger bottle garden. Just comparatively speaking to some of the things I made already, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's still getting plant growth, which is the most important part. You can see that long stem in the back is the new growth. That's basically it for downstairs. Only other thing here is this tillandsia that belongs to my sister, which is a variety of bromeliad. When I make her a succulent garden with these, she wants me to do something with this. I might actually throw my other tillandsia in there, so I'll see when I get around to that. Maybe I'll even record it. But I think that's basically it. In terms of change over the past 3.5 months, biggest things are my my new focus on smaller sized aquariums and terrariums, additional plants into the 40-gallon scorpion tank, introduction of this new duo spider paludarium, my new foray into water culture orchids, and just a variety of new plants that I've gotten since then and I've started to work with. I'm not sure if this tank was here 3.5 months ago, but it definitely has less plants in it. I've been taking out all the water plants and using them inside aquarium vases, so I'm trying to work everything out of this tank, and then I plan on using it. Yeah, I guess that is basically all the big changes since the last video, besides the new aquaponic tanks over there also. Anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. This has been Paul of Enclosures, and again, sorry about how dreary I sound. I'm just not feeling that great today. Anyway, you guys have a great day now. Bye.